Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship Psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is Premenstrual Dysphoric Disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking all about one of the things that causes you to want to break up with your PMDD partner. I am Dr. Rose Alcaton, your PMDD Relationship Psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly breakups. And one of the biggest things that I see with all of my private clients is fear. When you start to experience a lot of fear going into PMDD, you're having fear about what your symptoms are going to be like. You're having fear about maybe having that next argument or disagreement with your PMDD partner. You're thinking about the last month that you were in an argument, in a disagreement, how horrible it was with your PMDD partner. Maybe you went off on them in PMDD rage. You're really still thinking about everything that was said and done in PMDD. And so you really get into this mode of fearing going into PMDD again. You're fearing going through those symptoms. You're fearing what your partner is going to say that may trigger you. You're fearing what your partner may be doing that can trigger you. So there's so much fear going into PMDD that it's almost like even before anything happens, you're scared to go into PMDD. And as we know, I'm now on day 10 of PMDD. It's going to happen. You're going to go into PMDD. But what happens is when there's so much fear, there's so much anxiety around going into PMDD, you almost set yourself up for having those big blowups with your partner because you're already on edge. So I'm going to talk to you today about what really happens to your mind, what happens to your body, what happens in your relationship when you have a lot of fear and anxiety when you're about to go into PMDD. And even when you're in PMDD and maybe you've had a couple of good days, maybe you've had like 2 or 3 good days and you're like, oh my goodness, this is like, it feels like maybe this is going to be a good PMDD cycle. And then all of a sudden, something goes on, your partner says something that triggers you. How many times has that happened to you where you think everything's going great, you think you're going to have a light PMDD cycle, and then your partner says something that triggers you and you think to yourself, here we go again, we're about to get into a big fight, we're about to get into a big blow up, and you end up fearing each day of PMDD, every day that you wake up. And so I know for me, I have 14 days, 14 plus days, 14 to 16 days of PMDD. And if I'm already on, say, day 3 or 4, and I'm fearing the next couple of days, that means every single time I wake up, I'm fearing going into PMDD. And I want to talk to you today about what's happening with your mind, with your nervous system, because so many times on the outside, we don't understand what's going on inside of us. We just experience PMDD rage, but we don't know what's going on in our mind. And so the first thing that happens in your brain, so I'm going to talk to you about this because I want you to recognize how much fear has control over you when you're experiencing PMDD. So it's the activation of the amygdala. So what the amygdala is, it's the part of the brain that processes emotions. So that means when your partner is saying something and they're saying something innocently or they're saying something on the side, and then all of a sudden it triggers you and it causes you to have negative emotions, this means the amygdala is activated, right? So It identifies a threat, all right? It says something bad is about to happen. You know, maybe you feel underappreciated. Maybe you feel like your partner doesn't deserve you. Maybe you feel like you've been trying so hard in PMDD and your partner starts to criticize you. They say something to you and it makes them feel like you're not even trying. Like, oh, you know, I wish you would do more to work on your PMDD. I know this happens so often when partners feel like their partner is always hounding them. They're always telling them that they should be doing more to fix themselves in PMDD. The amygdala is now activated and it's processing those emotions that are making you feel like you can't win. Like no matter what I do, no matter how hard I try, my partner's always going to be dissatisfied. My partner's always going to want more from me. I feel like I'm giving the best that I can give, and my partner is still not satisfied. This is when the amygdala starts to have you question, maybe I shouldn't even be with this PMDD partner. Maybe I shouldn't be with my partner. If I can't do anything right, maybe I should just break up with him. And so many times you're in that place where you're feeling like I should just break up with my partner because no matter how much effort I put in, they're always criticizing me. They're nitpicking me. I'm walking on eggshells because I don't know what to say. I don't know what I should do because every single thing that I do, it seems like it's not good enough. So this sends a distress signal to the hypothalamus. So this is the part of the brain that's saying, this is fight or flight. We need to get out of here. So as soon as the hypothalamus is activated in the brain, right? Remember, it starts with the amygdala and then it travels to the hypothalamus. And what happens is it's the command center. It's that big part of the brain that's communicating with the rest of the body. It's communicating with your nervous system. It's telling your nervous system what to do. So when the hypothalamus is activated, right, it's responding to the amygdala. It's saying to itself, the partner's not happy, you're not happy, you're feeling criticized. So that's the emotion. Whatever emotion that you feel, maybe you feel criticized, maybe you feel nitpicked, maybe you feel like there's nothing more that you can do, you feel really hopeless. And I know so many times I've been there where it's like, I'm doing the best that I can, and you're still not happy. I'm doing the best that I can, and you're still asking more of me. I'm doing the best that I can, and you're still saying that it's not good enough. It's almost like when your partner starts criticizing you when you're in PMDD, you feel the need to give up because you're like, I don't have any more to give. How many times have you been that way in your relationship where you feel like you are doing everything? You are pulling out all the stops. You have not reacted to a lot of the things that triggered you. You're constantly holding all of these things in because you don't want another fight. You don't want another argument. And you hear one comment of criticism from your partner, and all of a sudden you feel like that's it. I just want to give up. That's because the sympathetic nervous system is now activated, right? This is when you go into the fight or flight. So this is when you feel like you want to break up because you feel like I have nothing more to give to you. I love you. I care about you. All of these things. None of that matters when you get into that mode of really not knowing how to please your PMDD partner, feeling like nothing that you're doing is good enough. So you're in that fight or flight response. So one or two things are going to happen when you get into this fight or flight response. Number one, you're going to have a fight with your PMDD partner. You're going to try to defend to them why you're showing up the way that you're showing up. You're telling them, I'm doing the best that I can. What more do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm not triggered by you. This has everything to do with me and nothing to do with you. How many times have you been in PMDD and your partner has taken your symptoms personally? They're making it like a personal attack, like the fact that you're suffering is causing them to suffer. And you're like, these are my symptoms. This has nothing to do with you and everything to do with me. But instead of me being able to focus on me and my symptoms, I have to cater to you and the way that you're triggered because I'm in PMDD and I can't handle both. I remember so many times really thinking that I can't handle my symptoms in PMDD and how you're triggered with me being in PMDD. And that's what I've gotten to the point of wanting to break up because I feel like I don't have the capacity for these 14 days that I'm suffering to deal with every single trigger that you have going on when it's not personal. A lot of times it's not personal, but your partner is taking it personally. It's almost like them watching you suffer is causing them to suffer, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Because in your mind, you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to suffer. I don't want to be suffering in PMDD. I don't want to be having these symptoms. But you are saying that it's almost like they feel like you're doing it on purpose. And so the sympathetic nervous system is activated. So it's that fight or flight response. So if you're not fighting with your PMDD partner and you're not going off on PMDD rage, guess what you're doing? It's that flight response. You're wanting to get the heck out of there. You're wanting to quit the relationship. You're wanting peace at this point. Your nervous system is so activated. Your nervous system is so flared up. Think of it like a balloon, like every single criticism and comment that your partner is making, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're feeling like the only way that you can get your nervous system to go back down, the only way that you can be calm again is to remove your PMDD partner from the environment. I need to get out of here. How many times have you stormed off on your PMDD partner? How many times have you completely shut down? For me, shutting down was my flight response. I could still be in their presence, but I would immediately shut down. I would go from arguing, trying to defend myself, to all of a sudden, I didn't say anything. My partner was constantly talking to me, saying all these things, wanting to get some kind of response out of me, and I just stopped talking because I got into that mode of feeling like you're going to believe whatever you want to believe. You're going to think whatever you want to think. And I'm going to be in this place of defending myself, but you just give up. It's that feeling of hopelessness. It's kind of like no matter what I say, no matter what I do, you're going to think this of me. So you have that flight response where you're feeling like you need to get out of there. You're wanting to get out of the relationship. You're wanting to get out of whatever it is that you're going on with your partner because you're feeling like I need to break up. I need to get out of there. And so when you're in that fight or flight response, you have a lot of adrenaline, right? When you have adrenaline in your body, watch out for PMDD rage. This is when it's coming. The adrenaline means, I know for me, when I feel the adrenaline coming into my body, I feel it in my traps. I feel it up here. I feel like I'm shrugging my shoulders. I literally feel the heat in my body. When my partner was talking to me and saying certain things, I could feel myself heat up. I knew that I was about to go off. So earlier in my journey, I used to just let it all out. I used to just say whatever I wanted to say, do whatever I wanted to do, throw things, yell, scream, all of those things. But then I recognized I immediately felt guilty afterwards. So as my journey progressed, I'm like, okay, I don't want to go off, but I'm feeling like I have so much adrenaline, I can't stay in this space. So that's when we go back to the fight or flight response. I would immediately walk out and slam the door. You know why I would walk out? Because I wouldn't want to feel that adrenaline and go off on my PMDD partner. I wouldn't want to go off on them, say things and do things that I regret later on, because my body was feeling like there was a threat. My body was feeling like something was wrong. You need to get out of here. You need to defend yourself. You know, when your partner is saying that you're doing things, you're needing to prove them wrong. You need to say, no, I didn't mean it that way. This is how I meant it. Or this is what you did. When your partner may be bringing something up to you and saying that, hey, you're doing something wrong, or I don't like the way you're looking. You know, you look different in PMDD. And so many times the way that you look, your mannerisms are a trigger for your partner. And your partner is saying, oh, you're not looking at me lovingly. You're not looking at me like you're loving me. You're not touching me the way that you love me. And you're feeling like I am just trying to survive. I am just trying to survive. And that constant criticism about you not showing up the way that you show up freely in your follicular phase, it triggers you. And you know what happens when it triggers you? You have a physiological response in your body. So I'm telling you what's really going on with you behind the scenes of what's happening when you're feeling like you want to go off on PMDD rage. You have increased heart rate. If you had a heart rate monitor on, like I have this Apple Watch, which I use sometimes to monitor my heart rate, a lot of times if your heart rate goes above 100, that means you're stressed. That means your heart rate is revving up, and you don't have to be moving. You know, this has nothing to do with exercise and movement. A lot of times You're exercising, you're moving, and you're going and you're doing this and you're doing that. When you're in PMDD and your partner is saying something that triggers you, your heart rate is literally increasing to where you feel like you have to do something. This is why it's called PMDD rage, because you're feeling like the only way to get it out is to say something or do something back to your partner to respond to what you're feeling. You're feeling like I need to respond to what it is that they're saying to me. When your partner starts to criticize you, you start to think about all of the things. What about you? What about the things that you're not doing? You're not a supportive PMDD partner. So you're in this place where your heart rate is going up, your blood pressure is 100% going up. So your blood pressure is pumping up, it's going to your muscles and your fiber. Your breathing is different. When you are in PMDD and you're being triggered by your partner, your breathing is rapid. You're breathing heavier and you don't even know it. It's kind of like those people who are about to, jump in double dutch and they're rocking back and forth. Like you're just waiting for a chance to respond. Your partner could be saying things to you and you're looking at them and your blood is pumping. Your blood is literally pumping because you're feeling like I have to fight back. I have to respond to what my PMDD partner is saying because they're not seeing me in a way that's true to who I am. They're attacking my character. They're saying that I'm doing things that I'm not really doing. They're causing me to feel like I'm a bad person. You're suffering in PMDD and you're feeling like your partner is telling you that you're a bad person. And you're thinking to myself, I didn't ask for this. I did not ask for this. And you're making me feel like I'm a bad person when I'm in PMDD and I did not ask for this. So you're literally going through in your mind all of these things that you want to say to your PMDD partner. Maybe you're saying them. How many times have you been going off on PMDD rage and you are literally feeling like you're having an outer body experience? Like you can't control what you're saying. You can't control what you're doing. You're feeling like you're a different person, almost like you're watching yourself. How many times has your partner said that you look differently? When you're in PMDD, you look different because guess what happens? You have dilated pupils. Your eyes look different. Has your partner ever said that to you? Like, hey, babe, your eyes look different. I can tell when you're in PMDD because your eyes look different. I remember my partner used to say this to me all the time and I used to get very offended. But I looked at myself in the mirror and I literally looked different. When I was in PMDD, it's like, where is that person? Where's that spark? Where's that light? Where's that good person? It's almost like PMDD overshadows your appearance. And so when you have that increased glucose level, everything in your body is exuding this energy. You're feeling like you're having to fight back to your partner. You're having to defend yourself. You're having to defend your character. You're like, I didn't ask to be in PMDD. And the fact that I'm having to defend myself to the person that is supposed to be supporting me the most. This is your partner, and they're supposed to be supporting you the most, and you're having to defend who you are to them. It causes you to be so angry and so triggered, and there's a lot of muscle tension. I know for me, it's in my traps. I start to feel it. Literally, I start going like this, and all of my muscles are tightened because I'm feeling like I'm walking on eggshells, or I'm feeling like I'm having to defend myself. All because I'm being triggered and I'm in PMDD by certain comments that my PMDD partner is saying. And it always leads to criticism. It's always leading to you feeling like your partner is trying to fix you. It's always leading to you feeling like there's nothing that you can do that's good enough. If you could get rid of PMDD, you would 100% do it, but you can't. And I feel like you're spending so much time trying to fix yourself and be good enough for your partner and not trigger them and walk on eggshells that you feel exhausted, that you feel like, you know what? If you want to leave, you should leave because I don't have anything more to give. And this is when your cortisol levels are heightened. This is when your hypothalamus is heightened, where that adrenaline, all of that is activated. So I want you to really understand what's happening in your mind and your body. When you're experiencing PMDD, everything is activated. It's on high alert. So when that release of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, when it's released, your energy levels are going up. And here's the thing, your cortisol, the stress hormone, we're made to experience a moderate level of stress. We should know how to manage the day-to-day stress. But when you are going through PMDD and you are experiencing a heightened level of stress, a heightened level of cortisol for 10 to 14 days, your body's not made for that. That's why you keep saying to yourself, I just want peace in PMDD. What you're really asking for is for your cortisol levels to go down. This is what you're really asking for, because when you are feeling like the stress hormone is so high for such a long period of time, you feel like you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You're very hyper vigilant to your surroundings. Has your partner ever come up to you and said something to you or done something to you and just said, hey, babe, and you jumped? You're hyper vigilant because your cortisol levels have been high for too long. Your stress level has been high for too long. You are going through stress for too long. And the physiological changes that are happening in your body are tightening you up. Everything is so constrained. It is so constrained. And so there's this heightened level of alertness. You're feeling like your partner's going to say something to trigger you. Even if they haven't said anything, how many times have you went out on date night? You went out on date night or you went out to do something nice. You're like, let me give my partner some attention. Let me try to connect with them. And you're assuming that they're going to say something to trigger you. You're assuming that they're going to do something to trigger you. So you become hyper focused on a perceived threat. You become hyper focused on your partner saying something to you. You're assuming that you're going to be triggered. So this heightened level of threat means that you're reading into every little thing that your partner is saying. Every little thing that your partner is saying, you're taking it negatively. Your partner could say, oh, I don't want to go to that restaurant. And you're like, oh, you never want to do anything I want to do. You're super negative and you're super hyper vigilant because you're assuming that your partner is doing something to harm you. You're assuming that they're wanting to cause you to be stressed out because you're thinking about times in the past where they've done something to stress you out. And so you start looking at your partner differently. How many times have you been in PMDD and you're starting to look at your partner differently? You're seeing them as the enemy. You're seeing them as someone that's trying to cause you to suffer. I remember so many times when my partner used to snore and I used to assume that, oh my gosh, they're snoring because I have this sensitivity to noise. I have this sensitivity to noise and they're just causing me to want to suffer even more because I can't get any sleep. You're assuming that your partner is wanting you to suffer. You're now seeing your partner as the enemy. So you become more vigilant. You start scanning the perimeter and expecting your partner to say and do things that are going to harm you. You don't feel like they're on your side. You almost feel like you have to prove yourself. How many times have you held in your PMDD symptoms, meaning you're really suffering, but you're trying to pretend like you're not suffering? I've been in this place so many times where I've tried to pretend like I wasn't suffering as much as I was suffering just because when I did suffer, it was used against me. My partner would say, oh my gosh, here we go again. This must be PMDD. And you're feeling like, man, I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to rise above this. I'm trying to do all these things. I've taken the vitamins. I've done the exercise. I've done the movement. I've done the yoga. I've journaled. I've done all of these things and my partner is still calling me out. They're still calling me out as if I'm doing something wrong. So what happens is you have this intense emotional response to criticism. Meaning your partner can start to suggest that, hey, babe, maybe you should do some of these exercises. Maybe you should do yoga. Maybe you should journal. And you have this fear that you're just never going to be good enough. And you know what that creates in you? Anxiety and dread and panic, because it's almost like hearing your partner's criticism makes your PMDD so much worse. hearing that they're not happy with you, hearing that they're not pleased with you, hearing that they're trying to fix you all the time when you're literally doing the best that you can. So it's the amygdala activation, like we talked about. When the amygdala in the brain is activated, it's like it processes emotions that make you feel like you're in that place of being hyper vigilant where you can't relax. So this is why you're really feeling like, you know what? I really just need peace. I really just need peace. And I'm going to tell you the way that this can really, so now you know how being in that state of fear attacks your mind and attacks your body. I'm going to talk to you about how it affects your relationship. Communication. When you're trying to communicate with your partner and you have so much fear and anxiety, you're not feeling like you're on the same team. You're feeling like you're having to defend yourself. So you're feeling judged. You're feeling criticized. So you don't want to have that open communication. You don't want to say how you really feel because you feel like if you say how you really feel, you're going to get judged for it. So it means that there's a lack of intimacy in your communication because they're asking you how you're doing and you're like, I'm fine. They're asking you how you're doing and you're saying, I'm fine, when you're not fine. You don't want to tell your PMDD partner that you're suffering because you feel like it's going to be used against you. You don't want to tell your partner what's really going on with you because you feel like it's going to be used against you. And that is a block for intimacy. That's when you have this emotional distance. So the person with PMDD, the PMDD sufferer, you may start to feel like you're a burden. You're a burden to your partner. Maybe my partner should be with someone who doesn't have PMDD. Maybe they should be with someone else because it's too much for them. This can lead to you isolating and you can feel really lonely in the relationship because you don't feel comfortable and you don't feel safe just saying what's going on with you. You don't feel safe just saying, babe, I'm suffering right now. How good would it feel for you to say to your partner, babe, I'm suffering right now? For your partner to ask you how you're doing and you say, I'm not doing good. How scary is that to you? How much fear comes up for you when you even think about saying that? When you even think about saying, I'm not doing good. I'm not doing well. I'm struggling right now in PMDD. How many of you feel safe telling your partner that you're suffering in PMDD? Or are you scared? Is there fear there? Is there fear that if you tell your partner you're suffering in PMDD, that it's going to be used against you? Think about that. Because an intimate relationship means you're into me. You know what's really going on with me. And so what happens is when you're experiencing a lot of fear and you're not wanting to say what's really going on with you, you're fearing rejection. You're fearing that you're going to say what's really going on with you in PMDD and your partner's going to reject you for it. You're fearing that if you tell your partner, I'm feeling like I have PMDD rage, that they're going to be scared. They're going to think that you're going to go off like you did before in PMDD rage. This really weakens the bond between the PMDD partners and that feeling of closeness because it doesn't feel safe. How many of you really don't feel safe telling your PMDD partner what's really going on with you? How many of you are in that place where it scares you? It feels so vulnerable to say what's really going on with you because you feel like it's going to be used against you because it has in the past. And I'm here to tell you right now that if it's been used against you, if things that you've said and done in PMDD has been used against you in the past, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen in the future. If your partner is working on themselves and if they're listening to my podcast, In Love with PMDD, and they're getting the tools and they're getting the right knowledge that they need to deal with PMDD and everything that it brings to the relationship, give them a chance. Don't hold your PMDD partner accountable for things that they've done in the past that they've apologized for. Because so many times we're blocking the intimacy because we're remembering what they did before. We're remembering how it damaged our trust before. There's so many trust issues that happen because of that fear. You almost don't trust them because you let your guard down before and they broke that trust by going off on you, by criticizing you, by trying to fix you. When you start to lose that trust within your PMDD partner, you're feeling less secure. This is what leads to the PMDD breakups, because you're feeling like the only way that I can have peace, the only way that I can really do things that I know to do in my relationship is to keep everything, close holds, to keep it hidden, to keep it under wraps. You almost feel like you have to suffer in silence. What's the point of depending on my PMDD partner when I'm going through really hard times if they're just going to use it against me? If when I try to bring up things to them that really, really bother me, and they're going to say, oh, I guess it's just PMDD again. I guess you're just going through PMDD again. They're not going to take anything that you say seriously because they're going to blame it on PMDD when you really have an issue with things that are going on in your PMDD relationship. So this is when the conflict is going to start to get heightened in your relationship. Fear can heighten those emotional responses, and it makes the conflicts more intense because you're feeling like, everything's escalating quickly because I'm on that fight or flight. I'm assuming it's going to happen. And then when it happens, you're like, of course it's happening. I knew this was going to happen. I knew you were going to say that. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're expecting the conflict so much that when it comes, it's like, here it is, because you were expecting it the whole time. You were expecting a fight with your PMDD partner the whole time. And it causes so much harm to the relationship because that's what you're expecting to see. And then when you see it, it confirms what you think. It confirms the fear. So when you have that bias and it's confirmed, then your brain is saying, oh, whenever a trigger comes up, we're going to fight. Your subconscious mind is literally going to think to itself, whenever we have a conflict, we're going to fight. So then you're not going to ever want to get into conflict. So you're going to fear saying what you really want to say, doing what you really want to do, because you're assuming it's going to cause conflict. You're assuming that it's going to go into that place. And a lot of times over time, this is going to cause a lot of resentment. For the partner that doesn't have PMDD, you're going to resent when your partner goes into PMDD because you're going to be like, if it wasn't for PMDD, we wouldn't have these issues. How many times have you thought that to yourself? If it wasn't for PMDD, if we could be like who we are in our follicular phase, if we could be how we are on our good days, we would have no issues. You do have issues, but the problem is you think that they're so small that if PMDD was removed, you would have the perfect relationship. And so you kind of get resentful for the partner that has PMDD, whether you outwardly say it or you inwardly say it. You may be thinking to yourself, I'm going through this hell every month because of this PMDD. I'm not really a bad person, but because of PMDD, I'm being painted as this horrible creature. So that goes into that negative self-perception. So the PMDD sufferer, they're going to start to feel unlovable or difficult to put up with. This is when low self-esteem comes in because you start to feel like it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Like that Taylor Swift song. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. You feel like you're the problem. So this negative self-perception that happens, it can hinder anything that happens in your relationship because you feel like we should just break up because it is me. I'm the one causing all of the problems in this relationship. So if I break up with you, it's almost like you feel like you would be doing your PMDD partner a favor. I would be doing you a favor by letting it go. And by it, I mean the relationship. I'm feeling like I want to break up with you to let you free from what you go through in PMDD. That rhymes. I want you to understand that when you have fear in PMDD, It is this big barrier to you having so much intimacy in your relationship, for you feeling close to your PMDD partner. And like I always say, PMDD is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to manage. So I'm not here to tell you that everything that you go through in PMDD, this fear that you're experiencing in PMDD, is your fault, but it is your responsibility to manage. So when you're feeling that fear, when you're feeling that anxiety, I want you to develop coping mechanisms for the fear that work well for you. I'm going to tell you what works for me, and you can choose what it is that works for you. Taking a walk, getting out of the environment. For me, I cannot stay in conflict with a partner while they're criticizing me, while they're telling me what I'm not doing, when they're telling me that I'm showing up a different way. I can't hear that when I'm in PMDD without getting triggered. So I don't want you to feel like it's something wrong with you being triggered. It's nothing wrong with you being triggered. It is your reactions. Learn ways to control your reactions. Life with PMDD is 90% of what happens. And the thing that really, 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 really impacts everything is the 10% about how you react to it. If your PMDD partner says and does things to trigger you, I want you to think back to the last time your partner has said and done something to trigger you and what your response has been. Do not immediately respond when you are triggered. Do not immediately respond when you are triggered. Take space. I want you to hear me. No matter how much you think you got this, no matter how much you think, oh, I can handle this, I can defend myself, you may think that you're punishing your PMDD partner for things that they've said and done to you, but you're going to be the one that's going to end up being punished when you're feeling guilty about your reactions. 90% of what happens in PMDD has to do with your reactions, because your thoughts about what's going on create that fear and anxiety, which creates those emotions, those negative emotions where you feel unappreciated, where you feel criticized, where you feel judged, where you feel blamed, where you feel shamed, where you feel resentment. All of these emotions come from the thoughts that you have from how you're perceiving what your partner is doing or saying. Even though this is your partner, you cannot give them control over your emotions when you're in PMDD. That is not going to be the way that your relationship is going to survive. If your partner has the propensity and the ability to control what you say and you do in your PMDD, that's a dangerous place to be, because that means everything could be going great and your PMDD partner says something to trigger you, and then all of a sudden your symptoms are exasperated. Your symptoms will absolutely be different once you're triggered by your PMDD partner. But when you feel that trigger come on, get yourself out of there. Take some space. Do what works for you. A lot of times I have to move my body when I have a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiety and stress and fear in my body. I have to move it. I have to do something with that energy. And it looks different for everyone. This is why I never give you cookie cutter things. It looks different for everybody. And if you need that customized to you, if you need it customized to what goes on with you and your relationship, then you need to go to www.inlovewithpmdd.com and book those private sessions. And I can customize some tools that are specifically for what works for you, because I don't want you feeling bad because you're looking at what I'm doing or you're looking at what someone else is doing and it doesn't work for you. How many times have you looked at what somebody journaling and you're saying, oh, journaling seems to work really, really well for them, or yoga seems to work really, really well for them. And you can't picture yourself sitting crisscross applesauce in anybody's yoga mat because you're too wound up. You have too much fear. You have too much anxiety. The amygdala is activated, all of the things that we just talked about. You cannot picture yourself being that calm in a moment where you're so stressed and overwhelmed. Do not beat yourself up about that. Do not beat yourself up about what it looks like for someone else. Pick something that works for you. I can't sit crisscross applesauce on a yoga mat when I'm filled with PMDD rage. I need to get outside. I need to go for a run. I need to go for a walk. I need to listen to some hardcore music. I need to do something that's going to allow me to get this negative energy out. I need to dance around whatever it is. The body holds the trauma. The trauma is held in the body. You need to get it out. If you don't notice that there's a connection between the mind and the body and your symptoms, I'm here to tell you it is. You can't just sit in it. Do not try to just sit in your bed and feel your symptoms. And if you're in that place where you're saying, Dr. Rose, I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. I can't go for a run. Go for a walk. When you sit in that bed and you sit in that depression, it is 100% going to impact you. You got to move because the emotions are moving. The mind is moving. The things that are going on in the body are moving. You got to move with them or you're going to allow them to overtake you. And that's when you're going to feel really, really, really weighed down. So I want you to really take from this is really understand what's going on in the mind and the body when you're experiencing that fear and PMDD and what that really does to you. So immediately just take some time to think about the last time you were in PMDD rage and try to put in these tools and steps in the beginning. And please, please, please don't think that you could ignore it. Earlier in my journey, I thought maybe I could just listen to my PMDD partner a month, like listen to them for a long period of time and I'll just take it and take it and take it. No, do something about it, but do something about it that works for you. And don't let it have to look like what everybody else is doing. Please don't compare. When you find something that works for you, stick with it. For me, movement works and I've stuck with it. I don't care if a billion people in the world say that it doesn't work for them. I'm not going to stop doing it because I know that it works for me. You need to find that thing. If I know I have private clients where journaling works for them. I can't imagine. I would be scribbling on that paper to where it would be ripped into shreds. I would be having like a party that had little pieces of paper all over it. But if that is what works for you, then do it. Don't worry about it. I want you to put your blinders on. When you're doing this work, this self-work with managing your PMDD and your triggers with your partner, focus on you. Don't compare yourself. Do what you need to do for you to manage your PMDD. It's not our fault, but it is our responsibility. So until next time, we got this. I love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD Relationship Psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.